What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall market. I'm also going to talk about why it's going to be very interesting to watch this market attempt to rebound, just like what we predicted yesterday. And then we'll be watching to see how this ends up reacting to some key levels. I'll be talking about that for Tesla SPY and the others. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moon link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends in about 12 days from now. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, we're seeing a rebound attempt right over here, exactly as we predicted yesterday. The same thing's happening to SPY and the others. The market's trying to rebound from here after getting a huge drop after Jerome Powell gave his speech. And if anything, the FOMC reaction is what caused an insane amount of volatility, but the market's trying this little rebound right here. So there is some good news that came out for Tesla and other things I want to talk about. Tesla is in talks with the city of Austin over self-driving technology, and this could be pretty big for them as they're trying to develop these new pieces of technology. But I just want to say that what they're essentially trying to do is they're looking for main hubs where they're going to be focusing on developing their technology a lot more before they start scoping it out to different areas. The main area right now, or the main regions right now, are going to be like in California and Texas. And Austin, Texas could be one area where they are going to continue to test things a lot more. Once they get better at testing in particular cities, it's going to become a lot more viable for different tests, and then it's also going to allow them for better safety standards and such. And then by improving it in those particular areas, they could start to scale it to other areas at least a lot more. So I think that is a lot more useful. I think that these are great areas for them to start testing different functions. So that's very, very cool, and I think that this will be a big win for them. So far, I heard that Tesla didn't really comment on this report that Reuters has made, but I think that this is going to be great. And as they continue to expand, I'm very, very excited about what FSD has to offer. Now, there was also more news that came out for the GDP numbers. The GDP growth rate, it was at about 3.1%. So that was above expectations right here. The GDP price index was also very close to expectations. Initial jobs claims were at 220,000 below expectations. So decent data, at least so far this morning. And that's what's helping the market to some extent. Our employment numbers were decent when you look at the Philly Fed's reports, so not too bad. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have the forward and 8-week bill auctions coming out. So look for a little bit more volatility then. So that's the next time we have more data coming out that's significant. But besides that, the market has seen some decent GDP growth, and I think that could improve things for the stock market to some small extent. They could use this as a catalyst to try to push things a little bit higher, and the market was due for a small bounce. But then we'll be watching to see if the move will last or not. The last thing I want to mention is that we basically have just like Nike and FedEx and BlackBerry announcing earnings after close, and we'll see what happens with those. So what's happening right now is the market's trying to rebound a bit after such a big drop after Jerome Powell's speech yesterday. Looking at Tesla, we're currently at about 450 a share, but there is a gap forming below around the 440 area. So I think that Tesla's going to try to fight and try to hold above this 450 area. If we continue to push, we're looking for a target of about 458 to 460. And if that breaks, we could go even higher for 465 and then 468. So we could attempt, as long as we hold above 450, there could be an attempt to get back up towards this like 460 to 458 area or above. But then the issue is, can we sustain the levels? Because the market has a big red bar, and the Fed is now announced that they're going to be cutting less than initially expected. So that's a little bit negative news. We also have this gap below to fill on Tesla, so I do think it's going to be coming back down to 440. So look for a push attempt to get close to 460. We'll have to see how well we hold above that. And then as time goes on, it is possible that Tesla will turn. If we reject often, we end up losing 450. Look for that gap fill all the way down to about 442 and eventually move down lower if that ends up rejecting. So watch that very, very closely. I think Tesla will attempt to rebound. Okay. We might try to push for the 460 area, but then we could reject if we end up coming short, and we couldn't make a move right back down to fill that gap towards 440. So please keep that in mind, guys. For now, that is what's looking very probable. For SPY, we're attempting to rebound as well. We're testing the 590 areas our resistance. We'll have to see if we could break this or not. That's very close to where our 200 EMA happens to be. If we break past that, we could get very close to 594 to 595. That would be our next target if we break past 591-ish. However, if we do get some kind of rebound, we'll have to be careful because this could always pivot back down if we do get some kind of rejection. So for now, look for a test of 591. If we break that, we could get close to 595. And then if we break that, we're looking for 598 to 560. 598 to 600, excuse me, guys. But I'm not counting us to get back up there. We might see a little attempt to get close to the mid 590s if we break 591. But then somewhere between 591 and 595, we could be forming a top. And there's always that risk of rejection. So please keep that in mind. There's going to be a risk of us hitting resistance and then kind of like selling off. So I want you guys to be very, very wary of that, because when you look at the daily time frame on SPY, we have that gap that's still, very, very prominent. There's a gap down here all the way down to these lower levels. So, we might be coming back down to fill some of these gaps below after we rebound. So just be very, very careful. For ES, we're attempting to rebound. We could get close to our 50 EMA. So, 5980, then 6,000 are going to be our potential targets. We could be pushing closer to the 6,000 area, the low 6,000s. And then if we reject off 6,020, we could turn back down and start dipping back down for the 5,900 flat area. Then eventually we have this gap to fill down towards like 5880. So we'll see how it goes. There might be a little rebound and a rejection. So be very, very careful and very mindful. For Nvda, we are rebounding to about 132. I think we could be pushing for 133 to 136. But then, like I said before, there's a left shoulder here, there's a head and a right shoulder. Are we going to rebound and then reject and start coming back down to fill this gap way down here in the 118 area? So for now, look for 133 to 136 for us to range trade around there. And then there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to, drop to lower levels. For Bitcoin, we are attempting to rebound right here. We could be approaching 104,000 or above. So look for a rebound for 104,000, but then we could also turn and make a lower high and start dipping back down to 100,000 or below. For NQ, we're attempting to rebound for 21,697. We could push closer to 21,800 or so. But then the closer we get to 22,000, the more likely it is that this could still turn back down again. And if we don't hold above 21,700, if we kind of like push above it then reject, there's going to be a risk of us returning back down to 21,270. So look for a rebound attempt and potentially a rejection if that move fails. So please keep that in mind. For the QQQ, we could be attempting for 520. We have to see if we could break that or not. If we do, I could see an attempt to get close to 525. It's possible, but watch 520 and then 525 as our resistance areas. We could reject off either one of them. And don't forget, we do have a gap to fill down to 509. So we're still bearish, but we might attempt a small rebound before we continue to dip lower. So watch the resistance areas and see where this thing ends up pivoting. Apple's looking a little bit weaker, might retest to 248 and shuffle before it starts to turn back down for about 244. So please keep that in mind. There's going to be that risk of downside. The Russell 2000 is trying to rebound. We're looking for 222, then eventually 225 as our targets if we break past that. And then if we hit 225, we could turn again and start dipping back down towards 218 and then eventually 215. So look for a rebound for 222.5 to 225, and then we could turn lower and start dipping. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For coin, there's an attempt to rebound here for 290. If that breaks, we're looking for 298 to 302 as our target. So there might be a small rebound on coin as well. But then if we can't hold above 302, there's going to be a risk of us turning back down, then continuing to fill the gap, which we haven't fully filled yet. There's also another gap down below here. So this could just be a temporary rebound before it turns. So please keep that in mind. For Amazon, we're still flat right now. We're trying this rebound. Look for an attempt to get to 225 or above. We have to break the all-time highs to remain bullish. Otherwise, if we make a lower high, this can still turn back down to 219. Eventually fill the gap to 213. So look for a rebound to 225 or above right here. And then this could start turning. For Meta, this might attempt to hit 610. If we break 610, I could be looking for essentially 617. So there could be a nice rebound attempt on Meta, but then there's still a risk that this is just making a lower high because we do have these gaps below to fill. So look for a rebound for 610 and maybe 617. And then if we reject off that, we have to lose 604 to start dipping lower. For Microsoft, we're trying to rebound. We're looking for 440. If we break the 444, could be a target. If we reject off this, we could be tipping back down to about 438. And if that fails, so I'm looking for essentially the gap fill for 431. So it could rebound and reject. For Google, I'm looking for an attempt to get back up towards 192.5. If that breaks, I'm looking for 194. So we could attempt to get closer to 194, but if we reject, there's a huge gap below, guys. So be a little bit careful with this. Might reject and start tipping closer towards the gap support at 184, and we'll see what happens from there. So that's my view with the markets. The market's trying to rebound. We'll have to see if we could get back up of all-time highs or not. There's a strong possibility the market's going to make a lower high compared to the all-time highs previously. And then we could be turning down. There's a possibility for now that looks a little bit more probable. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But look for an attempt to rebound on Tesla and the others. And then we'll see where we end up topping at, right? We're looking to see if we could hold above 450 and get close to 458 to 460 on Tesla and hold above it. We could attempt to push close to those levels, but then if it fails, somewhere around that area in the 460s, we could churn. So be careful, especially as we have a gap to fill during the pre-markets. There is a risk of us pumping and dipping. So please keep that in mind, guys. I thank you all so much for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, take care, watch your levels closely, and let's see how well this market tries to rebound. There will be an attempt to do so, but then we'll see if we get a rejection later on. Thank you again, and peace out.